So here in the state of Minnesota, we have a number of re- very real challenges in education. We recognize that Minnesota schools do its nationwide. We have some of the best schools in the nation. That we do very well in educating the majority of our population, but we do a dismal job for our so-called minority populations. And so when we think about these issues in education, it becomes important for us to recognize that although we're doing really well, there are some areas in which we're not. And so, what I'd like to present you with is some thought opportunities, right? So there was an article written called "A is for Activists," and in this particular article, they talk about, and you'll see another reference to this. They talk about in this article how looking for racial equity in school settings is actually destroying educational opportunities for all students. And so, what I'd like to present you with is this particular article so that you can make up your mind as you look at how these other things play out, as to whether that is a true statement or not, right? So is it possible that searching for racial equity in schools is actually destroying those schools? And then in the state of Minnesota, we also have a lawsuit that is currently before the judges, that is the Cruz Guzman lawsuit. And what this lawsuit says is that that the state of Minnesota has failed to live up to Brown versus the Board of Education, right? So it goes all the way back to the 1950s to cite that Minnesota is in violation of that separate but equal doctrine, because we recognize that Plessy versus Ferguson said it's fine to have separate but equal educational opportunities. But later that was reversed with Brown versus the Board of Education, where the Supreme Court justice says that separate can never be equal. And so Cruz Guzman lawsuit is suggesting that here in Minnesota that we've created almost an apartheid system with our education, and it points directly to the impacts or the negative impacts of charter schools. But we'll get to that a little bit later. And then there's some resources for creating equitable schools. And one of those is from the Virginia Department of Education. Love that. And then some other critical issues in schools. We'll also talk about, there's an opportunity to talk about This American Life, the problem that we all live with. And this really addresses how good people who want to see educational outcomes feel like those experiments are great for other kids, but not for my kids. And so it really talks about that. Choosing a school, New York Times talks about, parents of color, do they want to send their kids to a segregated school, or do they want to send their kids to an integrated school? And so the complexity of trying to make those decisions is addressed in that particular piece. And then lastly, which this loops back to A is for Activists, is race destroying Edina Public Schools? And Edina Public Schools were or are the seminal set of schools here in the state of Minnesota. And so they were the leader. And here's the interesting thing. If you are in a failing school district, what might be your recourse? If you are a parent, if you are a guardian of a young person, and you want them to have a good educational opportunity, what is your recourse? And I would say you would probably take your kid to a better school, and so or school district. And so these issues in education are very real. These are some examples here from Minnesota, and I'll leave those there for you to explore on your own.